Hello and welcome back. We are here continuing our Korea run. Last episode, we doubled construction, but more importantly, we subjugated Prussia for free by using some reverse sway and yo-yo sway type mechanics. We were hoping to do that with Mexico at some point, but that hasn't come up because the U.S. has been fine letting Mexico keep Arizona and part of Texas. So that's a little bit interesting. This is likely to be the last episode. I'm not 100% sure. What I really want to try is trying to build tall in the Korean mainland, and specifically trying to use a whole bunch of edicts for greener grass campaigns, because I think this is really strong. It's possible that, you know, being on state religion, look, if state religion doesn't really significantly impede mass migrations, which we're not sure if it does or if it doesn't, then this would allow you to run more of these edicts. And I have a feeling that this metagame is going to revolve around keeping your incorporated territories low in terms of metagame, in terms of getting most pops. And this is kind of what I'm concerned with. I was just going to do this for starting steps, but this is what I'm concerned with testing, is if we put down a greener grass campaign, what's going to happen is it's going to massively increase the migration attraction. And then if we get a mass migration, it's going to be right there. And we've mentioned this before, it's going to be like right in one of these spots. We see that we have 4 mass migration attraction things. This makes that province not eligible to receive a mass migration. So we see here we have 4 mass migrations. We are also still have pretty high mass migration attraction. And so what I'm thinking is going to be the case is that every place you have incorporated that's not currently experiencing a mass migration, you put down an edict there, right? So that you crank up the average. You see, we're only getting counted off of 4 provinces here. And so, if we put down 4 edicts, this is going to crank up our mass migration attraction to like 80 or something like this. And this is the thing we want to test. However, we're not really out of pops yet. And so, I kind of low-key think that, you know, the consumption taxes allowing us to construct a little bit more might be more worthwhile, but maybe this is a mistake. So this is kind of what we're hoping to get done this episode, is kind of test this out a little bit. I kind of want to have a little bit more buffer before we start peeling up some of these consumption taxes, but that's going to be like the next thing we think about. Maybe we don't even want the social mobility of Beijing and we just move something else here. In fact, let's do that right now. So why don't we do this? We're going to get rid of... Okay, we can't pull it off. No, okay, we can pull it off. So let's get rid of the promote social mobility. This has been very good this entire run, putting it in both Beijing and Shaanxi, because this has allowed us to really pull up the average. Because these places house almost all of our pop, it really allowed us to pull up literacy. But we're going to try putting this greener grass campaign thing in Transvaal, and then coming into the ledger, that's not the ledger. Wait, what? That's the ledger. We're expecting to see this jump up, because Transvaal, it hasn't calculated it yet. It was at 43. We're expecting to see this crank up, and we want to have at least 5 states calculated, because otherwise you encounter a little bit of a malice. But we see we jump up to the second spot, and then here Transvaal's up at 78. And so if you just juggle having 5 states not receiving a mass migration, all having the edict, I think that this might be a way to abuse the new system, which seems very much mass migration oriented instead of intermarket migration oriented. But let's just continue on and see how things go. So after a short wait, we get a mass migration to Transvaal. So now, if we come into the ledger and we look at mass migration attraction, our average will have tanked down. In fact, we're all the way down here because it's no longer counting Transvaal. But what we can do is we can just shift the edict to Yangtze, and we will do that now. And in this way, the edict is getting to, while we are having tons of mass migration attractions in various other places, the edict is getting to pull up the average a disproportionately higher amount, because the fewer places we have incorporated that are currently not receiving a mass migration, the fewer of these that are the case, then this means that the edict is worth more on the states that we have remaining. So we only have 3 incorporated states now, Shaanxi, Beijing, and Yangtze, that are not currently receiving a mass migration attraction, which is bananas. And this is the very thing we wanted to test, and it's seeming to be the case already, that they really, really care about if you discriminate on the basis of, citizenship. They don't seem to care if you on the basis of religion. So Yeah, okay. So we get a mass migration where we were increasing it. Notably, we finished incorporating Freistadt, so now they're in the rotation of people who are going to be receiving mass migration. I am not in love with the fact that I think that what's optimal is actually to just like juggle around the edict, because I think that this is super tedious. But it does seem to be the way to go if you are, you know, trying to maximize on this. I don't know why this thing doesn't. Sometimes it's just buggy. But we see here, now that we're getting into here, this is going to pull down the average, of course, but then we moved the edict over to, we moved it over to here in Guanbuc, and that one should crank up, which will raise the average above this 57 figure. Now it's at 66, Guanbuc leading the charge at 100, and so in this way we're able to stay at the top of, you know, or near the top of this sort of ladder, which I think is going to be kind of, it seems winner take all. The winners seem to get a lot of the mass migrations. If you're not in the top 5, you don't seem to get very much of them at all. Or it's, well, I guess Mexico is getting one here, but this does seem to be kind of how it's working. And so with that in mind, we'll try and just stay at the top by juggling an edict. And we could do a second edict even if we took off the thing on wine. And you know what? Maybe we can survive without the wine tax here. So let's take off the wine tax, which is going to stimulate our economy in other ways, because it'll raise SOL after a little bit of a delay while people... so what it's going to do is the excess, there will be a larger excess, people's SOL will go up, and then the basket of goods they're consuming will go up, which will raise prices, and these raised prices will stimulate our economy. And so this is what's happening, but we can do greener grass, and why don't we do it in Yangtze or something like this. To be fair, it doesn't, we could do it in Shaanxi even, like in a place where we have unemployment, but this is going to, once again, pull up the average. So before we unpause, maybe let's take a look at the mass migration attraction. We see we're at 66. We just put one in down here. I don't even know what state this is, to be honest, Yangho. And so we're expecting Yangho to jump up and crank us up into kind of the next level. So they're at 68 right now, expecting them after, you know, we let it wait for a week. I said after we let it wait for a week, do we have to reset the looking at the thing? Yeah, Yangho is up to 114, and we are now just behind the USA. And so if you just juggle these edicts, it's going to crank up the average a whole ton. And then when you're getting a mass migration, it doesn't count for the average, which means you can just leave the edict off of it after you start getting the mass migration attraction, or the mass migration. I'm pretty sure you pull in more migrants with the higher migration attraction, but we're still pulling a lot with only 55 down here. And then this is going to cause like unemployment and peasants and this type of stuff, so it will pull down the amount of pops that are coming in as they, you know, just become peasants and lower the average SOL because of the mass migration. Well, would you look at that, Mexico's willing to become a subject. Oop. We're not going to get a state. We're going to become protectorate from Mexico, which is going to be fantastic for us. And they want to return Texas. So long ago, when we let Texas get annexed by the USA, with the idea that Mexico would get it back eventually, we are seeing that borne out to fruition. We will raise up to some of these conscripts, and then we will send over many boyos. We will need to put a lot of these guys on defend front. We are preferring generally defending fronts, at least at the outset, while this huge stack conscripts up 100 guys. Pillage meta might be interesting, though. The reason we're using pillage is because we want to cause as much turmoil as possible, and if we cause a bunch of turmoil, we might be able to force people out, you know, in terms of mass migration. If we cause a bunch of turmoil here, it lowers the infrastructure, which causes a whole bunch of problems, which can lower, you know, average SOL, which can cause mass exoduses, in addition to causing turmoil. And we will call this, it's not really the pillage meta, it's more the kidnapping meta, because if we force mass migrations out from the United States of America, guess where they will be headed? They'll be headed to Korea. Alright, we went ahead of time to get it, and it's going to be super nice. We got malaria prevention. We got it when we pipped the documents. In theory, we should have swapped back to the documents at some point in time, but this is really not the biggest deal. I think that we're going to move ahead of time and try and get, well, we're going to pick up the easy one right here, but then we're going to move on to trench, I think. This is going to help out a lot, increase shrapnel artillery, which is going to cause devastation. We love to see it. Kidnapper meta in full swing, although I don't don't know if it's more devastation than just regular cannon artillery with the 15%. I haven't had this memorized. It is more devastation, which we, of course, are big nice with the kidnapper meta. I mean, you love to see it. The entire mainland all has mass migration attractions, and over here has mass migration attractions. We actually only have 2 states that are not incorporated, and that are incorporated rather, and that is Beijing and Shaanxi, and we're still not too tremendously low on this list, but this is with us running migration edicts in both of these states. The only reason that they're not doing too hot in both of these states is, of course, because they have unemployment. Well, at least in the other one. This one at least has some measure of migration attraction. Well, so does the trade center. Also, it does seem to be the case that you probably want to incorporate very aggressively where you have trade centers. This is just something to keep in mind, but basically we're receiving all mass migrations in all of our incorporated territories. Off the back of this edict, you can see where we started to crank up just right here, and our sideways normal looking pop growth line is now turning into a 45-degree angle, which is a nutter. And we also have more states that we're incorporating that are going to kind of make it in. These are the only ones we have right now. We started these ones forever ago, but this is going to be a huge deal. Also, normally it's really hard to get pop into Transvaal to get anything going. Somehow they're losing pop while getting a mass migration, which is a bit of a vibe. That's interesting. The number 1 pop here, or it's not number 1, but there are Korean pops here, which also helps with, there's not a lot of Korean pops here, but it does help with the places being able to employ up as a result of having more qualifications. But let's take a look, insignificant. But over here, we have peasants. The things are coming up. It's big nice. Why are you a little bit low here? Is it because of we still have turmoil here? This is a bit of a reason, but also it's got some devastation. Okay, I think we'll look to, in that case, if this is a bit of a problem, I think we'll look to increase law enforcement. We currently have a Panama survey that's about to complete, and I think we do have some government administrations in the queue, so we can crank these up. So we'll crank up police a little bit. Now Beijing, normally a subject of mass exodus, is experiencing a mass migration, so we're up to pretty much the whole bag, which is kind of what we thought would end up happening if we were using edicts in this way. We see that the pops are coming in. We're just going to leave the edict because we have to toggle our our budget in order to move the edict in order to come above 0, so we'll just leave it there in Beijing for now. I mean, we could get a mass migration in Shaanxi. This is possible, and then literally every single one of our incorporated states would be having a mass migration attraction currently. But this edict seems really strong. And look, they're getting 3K, 2K, 5K, 5.7K, 6K, just taking a look over here with the weekly migration attraction as a result of these mass migrations. Just the amount of per annum growth here is just enormous. And when we took a look at our line chart, it's starting to look like a 45-degree angle. And this is with us having a ton of peasants. We have a ton of peasants in this area. It's not like we've de-peasanted this area and we're getting a ton from standard of living. Standard of living here is not great. It's 12. It's not a beacon of anything. But it doesn't matter because we have our mass migration edict, our handy dandy, and it's a winner-take-all affair with these things, with these mass migration attractions. And then once you have the mass coming in, it seems that having really high attractions is much less important. So it does seem like it seems really abusable, meaning you can kind of play tall as anyone, which this was the idea. We wanted to play tall as Korea here. And so this is kind of how things are going. If we annex Manchuria, we incorporate it, we could incorporate it pretty quick. And then, we will have ourselves these edicts just flying around here, making this place super tall, just siphoning off tons of pops. I mean, just it's an insane, the graph looks insane. So we weren't able to properly defend Mexico. To be fair, I don't think we kept up with, expanding stuff quite as much as we should have. But we have been getting a ton of mass migration attractions still. Let's kind of pull this up. And it has been absolutely glorious. but I do think this is going to be the pretty stuck-in meta. We have one more incorporated territory here in North Borneo, and you can see mass migration attraction is going to be pretty high. We have 4 eligible states. It's going to be Transvaal, North Borneo, and Transvaal is going to get a mass migration almost instantly because they currently get a plus 125% from their gold bonus, and so this is going to be they're going to get one just fine without us moving an edict there. We put one in North Borneo because it's incorporated now, and so our average is staying high, so this means we get to winner take all, the mass migration. And you can see here, now we're starting to get almost all of them. There's like one in the USA, sure, but we're pretty much just cranking through and getting all the mass migration. And here's the tail of the tape. Now, it is a little bit tedious because we keep having to move around edicts, but this is like a 45-degree angle, which is not something that's been doable in quite some time. We can crank up an edict in order to get one more decree in, but this is the name of the game, is just shuffling these about. Wait, what? Why are you isolated? Oh, this is the bug. Okay. It's because we're going after Manchuria. The fight just started, and it thinks it's isolated, which it's not really. This makes it ineligible, but we'll be able to put in there soon enough. I said soon enough with the loud car outside. And there we go. And so that's why we had some leftover. We got to tank this back down. But this is going to be pretty good. We're also going to incorporate Manchuria, and they will be added to the rotation of just mass migration attraction. To be fair, this might make things a little bit harder, because they're going to have some amount of turmoil, so maybe it's the case that you want to wait a little while, because they will have turmoil, but okay, this is... the mission accomplishes the main idea. Well, I think we're going to conclude the episode here. A little bit of a shorter episode, to be honest. We're trying to get a whole bunch of episodes recorded before we maybe get early access to Spheres of Influence, and there's an embargo, so I want to create a backlog, and I don't want to be creating episodes when it's taking too long, and the game is starting to chug along at a pretty slow rate, and we kind of did what we wanted to set out to do, which is what we created a kind of nice tall Korea. We have like this little niche over here, really strong mappy states overall. I think we'll just go through kind of the areas we expanded. Really happy to get this Amazonia. This is very low infamy for the amount of rubber and wood and iron that's here. This is one of the highest iron states in the game in Para, with 78 iron plus the 20% throughput bonus. But each one of these has over 20 rubber, and I think over 20 logging. Oh, I guess Para doesn't have that much logging, but ton of logging over here, ton of logging over here. Really nice. We reverse swayed to get Argentina, getting about ready to annex it as soon as the colonization is over. That kind of would have been coming up. Ecuador's got pretty good mappy. They got stuff that's pretty good. We missed out on Peru, Bolivia. They were a little bit too quick to form. To be fair, we maybe could go after them later, but it was looking like we were going to get joined against a lot. Same with Colombia, for the same reason why we didn't go after them. Venezuela has a lot of oil, and I was thinking that, in particular, we were really thinking that the colonial resettlement combined with the strategy we were executing would be really strong because it gives plus 50% migration attraction in unincorporated states. This is strong for a few reasons. First of all, we actually would be able to pull Korean pops over here, and I don't know if we were successful. Looks like we didn't pull any Korean pops here, but pulling Korean pops, some amount of Korean pops to unincorporated territories, seeds them with Mahayana, which will allow us to convert other pops there. You need just at least one pop, and so staying on state religion and pulling guys over there would be pretty nice. But also, I was thinking that the mass migrations dump to the homeland states, and then once they dump to the homeland states, then we can rely on regular migration in order to sweep in and occupy the unincorporated states. Overall, I don't know if we really kind of achieved that because the cultural communities aren't necessarily forming in these areas. To be fair, it maybe is the case that we should have used mass migration or migration edicts to try and spawn Korean in a bunch of other areas. That way we could, get a bunch of people to migrate to the mainland, convert to Korean, and then feed them through. But this was kind of part of the strategy. Let's keep talking about it. Didn't really do too well in the rush for Africa. We are colonizing at a decent clip. I think we still end up getting over 50%, but just like barely over 50% here. Tripolitania, multiple times when we looked at it, it just like too many people would be joining against us, so we didn't end up going for that. As a miracle, we got like Prussia last episode, so that was crazy. And then Persia and Manchuria are both incredibly resource dense and really, really, really nice. And we went after these. We would kind of be suiting up to annex Persia once we get to 0 infamy here. Probably go after Argentina first, but then Persia. Really, really nice mappy states. Actually, probably just straight up Persia next, actually, because this way we could use the opium. This would be pretty nice, and they would have decent migration attraction from unused arable land. And so once we were to take them, they would have decent migration attraction because they'd be having like another plus 100% on top of this. They'd have 36 migration attraction, and maybe we could kind of feed some pops into here. The reason being is that we get 25% from being a great power. We get 25% from Intelligentsia and 50% from colonial resettlement. So all combined, it really feels like we're able to get some of these places at least some level of migration happening. Like in Transbachial, we're pulling pops here. We're pulling, I think, Manchu and Mongolian out from here. Stuff like this. And even Inner Mongolia is somehow gaining pops, which is wild, because I think that they had unemployment not too long ago. But, so that's kind of how we've ended up expanding. Here's the market. We have a few people in the market that are not... oh yeah, we also took almost all of Borneo. We got the Netherlands in the market, which is pretty nice. Pulled in the Dutch East Indies too. This is this is a little bit of a derpy connection, but that's how we connected into Prussia. And so overall, things look pretty good, I think. Oh, Brazil's in the market too, I forgot. We also swayed in Mexico. They're a protectorate, not yet any kind of puppet. And so, yeah, overall, pretty strong. If we take a look here, and we look at prestige, we're a little bit behind in the prestige game, but we did reach #1 GDP. Probably would hit #1 great power just as soon as we finish, or actually we haven't upgraded our navy to monitors, probably could recruit more monitors, really crank up the prestige, and this would be a fairly good way to go about it if we just upgraded all of them, but it's a little bit late for this. But we're just basically right there. SOL, we're not very high on the SOL, even though we have, public health insurance. And the reason for this is because we have a ton of peasants still. Just look at this. This is like close to a 45-degree angle. Obviously, the last bit at the end was a result of us annexing Manchuria, but we have over 100 million pops, starting as Korea, in 1902, which I think is pretty solid. I think there's a lot of improvements that could have been made on the run. I think we could have fought Great Qing a lot more, and this probably would have been better, but I was kind of keen on trying to build a little bit taller. I don't think I emphasized this very much throughout the run, but I didn't want to take a bunch of extra population states. I really just wanted to take Beijing for the Forbidden City, and then Shaanxi's like too good not to take. It's the best resource state in the game, so just kind of how that shook out. So not super high SOL. To be fair though, we're cranking up really, really hard on the construction, so SOL is like rising actually, which is wild. But let's kind of take a look, and then as far as population goes, we are #3, a little bit behind Russia. Russia's doing nice, but you notice with this patch, it seems to be the case that population is way more flat for most people, except for the people who get a ton of mass migration. So we were doing really well around here. Russia actually did really well early on, but USA has a near 45-degree pop growth, and then relatively flat for Austria, relatively flat for British. Actually, no, this is not the case. They got a bunch of Han pops. This is after the rev, so they're actually not relatively flat because we were inside their market and they were siphoning off Han pops. Japanese are lowering in pop. To be fair, we're siphoning off from them, but it does seem super winner take all-y. Let's find someone. Turkey is just hemorrhaging pops, which I think Turkey starts out with open borders. They're probably one of the best targets to get inside your market. That way they can feed you pops. Egypt, let's see. Canada should be doing... Canada, what's wrong? This is just them getting incorporated through the mechanic. Okay, fair. Brazil should have a relatively good graph. The one I'm looking for is Argentina. Argentina, in several of the runs we've done on this patch, has just absolutely crushed the migration game. I guess we could just look at we could look at USA and Argentina specifically. Let's just do that. Because these ones have performed really well, so that's them. And to be fair, them being a subject of ours might inhibit them, but yeah, look at this graph. This is so much pop coming on up, because they have a lot of unused arable land, and it's kind of winner takes all in regards to the mass migration. Why don't we check? Belgium did okay? What's this about, though? I don't understand their graph, because that's not a singular hitch. They just massively, I guess they might have just gotten one, started to get mass migration attraction, and now they're tapering off. If we take a look, yeah, so this is evidence of a mass migration somewhere, but now they're getting a massive exodus. But the fact that they have so many cultural communities seems to indicate at some point they started popping off of the mass migrations. But if you're playing and starting as Belgium, maybe you're just supposed to, like, from the start, be using greener grass campaigns. It's a bit interesting. I'm glad we got to try it out as Korea. I'm glad we kind of verified that it does seem to be the fact that religion doesn't gate you, but culture does, which is going to make Europeans even better. It's going to make going African American as USA and then being on cultural exclusion really good, because then you can get a bunch of these from Africa, these mass migrations. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and the run. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and have a good day.